Well, hey everyone, and welcome to Meck's online campus. We were set to start a new series today, but I felt very strongly compelled to call an audible in light of all that's going on in our nation, specifically the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, the latest in a string of killings of black men and women that have been horrifyingly captured on video. George Floyd's death has proven to be a tipping point. Sad that it's taken to this point, but it has proven to be that, not simply in the black community, but for our entire nation. Whether it was the combination of anxiety and frustration pent up due to the pandemic and the economic havoc that has come in its wake, coupled with, obviously, the viral video, or just the fact that this was such a clear, compelling, unambiguous act of senseless violence against another human being made in God's image, that was captured in its entirety for all to see and hear and experience. Someone who had not committed a violent crime, did not resist arrest, begging for them to please just let him breathe because he couldn't, held down, handcuffed, with a knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, 2 minutes and 53 seconds of which he was already dead. Everything that the Black Lives Matter movement has been trying to get across was suddenly, unmistakably, irrevocably stamped onto our collective conscience. It's as if the world finally saw not only the knee on the neck of George Floyd, but the knee on the neck of Black America. Meck is a family of faith, one that is wonderfully, beautifully, intentionally diverse racially. And as a family, we have been grieving over this, which is good. Sympathy is good. But as a family, we can do better than that. We can do more than that. I want to make sure we walk through it as a family with each other and for each other as a family. And let's be honest, not all of us in our family are going through this the same, with the same feelings or emotions or certainly background, much less skin. Those of us who are white are deeply resolved in our condemnation of racism and social injustice. And as an extension of that, we're appalled, heartbroken over what happened to George Floyd and to so many others like him. We are deeply sympathetic to our Black brothers and sisters. But to walk through this as a family, we've got to be more than sympathetic. We have to be empathetic. We have to listen. We have to learn. We have to enter into how our Black brothers and sisters are feeling and how we can walk with them as their brothers and sisters during this time and into the future of what we all hope and pray is change. So I've asked some members of our Meck family to join me this weekend for a bit of a family chat. When we had things to go over in my biological family, my wife Susan and I and our 4 kids, we would often say, okay, we're gonna have a family meeting. We'd say family meeting, and we'd even set the time, and we're all gonna get together. And then we'd make either big announcements, or we'd have big conversations or discussions, or maybe we had a question that we all needed to wrestle with as a family. So let's have a family meeting, but for listening and for learning. Just asking some questions of some of the other members of the family that we care about deeply, very deeply. And we wanna care about deeper still. Listening to the answers, and hopefully all of us serving and being served as a result. So let me just begin by introducing these folks to you. I've got with me Alex Davidson and Antoine Love and Nina Wright and David and Dee Dee Adatutu and Keely White. And I'm gonna just ask them to go around and just to say their name again so you get a name with a face. Maybe they could say something about maybe how long you've been a part of the Meck family. A little bit about your own family right now, maybe what you do for a living, or what you're doing at home if you don't work outside of the home. I know some of you don't. Anyway, just helps get to know you a little bit. So, Keely, can I put you on the spot and have you lead us off?
My name is Keely White. I am originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I moved down to North Carolina when I was about, 13 or 14. I did high school down here. I've been attending Meck since I came down, so that's about 9 years now. And I serve in Meck Kids in the kindergarten and first grade room. I love everybody in there.
You
And
smile a little bit bigger when you say that.
those kids are my favorite people at Meck, no offense. Yeah, and I just love it here. These people are my family.
Hi, I'm Nina Wright, and I have been, as I said earlier, sneaking into Meck since the late 90s, mid to late 90s, but I didn't officially become a member until around 7 years ago, and serve in the Connection Center, and love everything about what I'm experiencing at Meck, including opportunities like this. I spent 21 years in law enforcement as a sworn officer with Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. So I do have somewhat of a multifaceted viewpoint on a lot of things. But in that, after that 21 years, approximately 10 years later, I went back to CMPD, where I'm still employed now, working from home now, but in a civilian capacity.
My name is Antoine Love. I've been coming to Meck for almost 6 years now. My kids started in the second and third grade classrooms, and I now serve in the second and third grade classrooms now in both small and large group capacity. I've been married for almost 17 years now with my beautiful wife, Adrian. I'm in manufacturing, been manufacturing for almost 20-something years. So originally from Cleveland, Ohio, so go Bucks.
I knew you would get that in.
Hello, I'm Alex Davidson. I've been coming to Meck almost 3 years now. I'm married with 2 kids, my wife Wendy, my son Elijah, he's 10, and my daughter Ava. I was born and raised in Metro Detroit. My wife and I moved down to Charlotte roughly about 12 years ago. We've been serving here at Meck for almost the duration we've been here. I serve in the Meck Kids area as well as on camera. And I am a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for coming up on 2 years now.
Hey, I'm Dee Dee Adetutu, and we've been married this is my husband David, not to steal your thunder, but we've been married for going on 15 years. We have 4 kids, and I'm a homeschool mom. Before that, I was working in corporate America for about 10 years, and God just called us to change our family dynamic, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for Meck coming alongside us and really partnering with us to do that. We serve in the children's ministry, I serve in the creative arts team, and with Max Life.
Hi everyone, my name's David Adetutu. I was born, bred, buttered, everything in Nigeria. I moved here about 15 years ago, and I loved it at first. Still love being in America. There's a lot of things different. I work in banking. I'm in credit risk management, more on the automation side. And I serve with Max Life. I've served with Meck Kids too before, but right now I'm focused on Max Life.
Let's get started, and here's my first question. How are you doing? If we want to see you and hear you, what is it we need to see and hear and know as your family about what you're going through, and then through you as an extension, obviously giving us a window into the what's going on with the Black community of Meck as a whole, because we love you, we want to know. So how are you doing?
How am I feeling? Really sad, really. I was angry for a while because I couldn't express my frustration, but I think now it's just sad because I'm not even sure where we can take this.
I've been Black all my life, and I know that these things happen. I've heard of this before, I've experienced it, but this time I was a little surprised by my lack of ability to cope with it. It seemed like for some reason now I was just so confronted with it in a way that I couldn't go about my normal day. I couldn't have normal conversations, and I was like, why is this so difficult? Is it that it's more in the media? Is it that enough is enough? Is it that this is not the first time we've seen this? So I'm really struggling with that. And yeah, feeling a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and trying to hold on to hope in the midst of all that, and asking God, what do you want me to do to respond to all of this?
As a family, we're doing okay. As the head of the household, I think I have to hold it together more for some of my family. My wife is more of the emotional of the family. So, you know, raising two young black kids, it takes more of a toll on her than it does me. I think what makes this different with the frustration is that I think it's the blatantness of what the world saw.
You asked a good question. How am I feeling? I'm numb right now. I'm over the looting and stuff like that. I'm over that. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in to your point, how do we fix this, right? And it's not that we can't fix it, it's when and how we're going to fix it. It's not like you're going to fix your car. It's not like you're going to fix your house. This is about fixing people and how we fix our culture. That is what I struggle with.
From a personal perspective, I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm frustrated that years ago, I had to have the conversation with my two grandsons because they're black males, young black males. I'm frustrated I had to have that conversation just again. They're both adults now, but I had to remind them, remember who you are and how to behave if you encounter or have any interaction with law enforcement. I don't care what that law enforcement person's race or gender. It does not matter. This is how you are to behave, and this is how you are not to behave. I'm angry that I had to have a conversation with my 10-year-old granddaughter about why someone who is sworn to protect and help others would take an innocent life in such a horrific way. She watched it, and her response was, if a police officer tries to kill my brothers because they're black, I'm going to get them. She's only 10. She shouldn't even be thinking about this, but it's reality. On the professional side, having spent 21 years in the uniform and then being back, I actually returned to CMPD 30 days before the 2016 Keith Lamont Scott shooting. So I came right back into it full effect. On that side, I'm distraught that in this century, it's still as bad as it was when I came on, because when I came on, it was blatant. It was hard. It was very difficult. Don't be black and female and have the audacity to put on a uniform. How dare you? You're told that you have to go to the back door to answer a call for service in certain areas because they don't want to see black people on their front porch in a uniform. So from a professional perspective, I'm just distraught that we are still facing the same thing, because in the years I was there, I helped as best I could to try to thwart this kind of stuff. And it's still pervading. So I'm all over the map.
After we watched the video, I felt angry, but I also felt like it's just another one on the list. What's anyone going to do about it? It's going to be the same as before. We're going to talk about it for a little bit. It's going to get a little media coverage, and then we're going to move on and just keep going about our day, still being anxious, still worrying about all of our family members. But then I feel just like a little bit of hope that this time is going to be different than all the other times, because I grew up with social media. This situation wouldn't be as big without social media. If that was not recorded, would we even know? Would we even know anything about it? I feel hope. I feel scared. I feel scared to be a young black woman in America.
we all have to have that conversation at some point with our kids about how to behave when you're in this situation or when you get pulled over or what have you. And I think the frustrating part about it is we do all that. We comply, we keep our hands on the wheel, we roll down yes sir, no sir, and then results like this still happen. Even we do everything that we're supposed to do. And so I would say that's a frustrating part about it as well, is when we do everything correct that we're supposed to do, we still end up dead.
You know, that's kind of raises maybe the next question. Let's take our family at Meck, our empathizing a step further. I was reading an article this past week by a black professor at Wheaton College, which is one of the leading evangelical Christian colleges in the nation, who said that some will say talking like this in a church setting and talking about the killing of George Floyd and just bringing politics into the church. And they'll wonder why we're not just as upset about black-on-black crime or the breakdown of the black family or looting or whatever topic, and I liked how he put this. He said, or whatever topic that helps us avoid looking at the thing itself. And that thing is the 400-year history of racial trauma and oppression still plaguing blacks in this country. What would you say to help your white family at Meck that loves you? What would you say that would help us get that a little more?
Have a conversation with us. Have a conversation and build a relationship with us. Understand some things. Come with us somewhere. You'll see what we see from our eyes. Because again, what you see is from your eyes, but you don't see it from our eyes. Have a relationship with us.
It's not that we don't care about black on black crime or the demise and fall of the black family unit. It's simply that at this moment, right now, this is the thing we need to focus on. It is incumbent upon all of us as a Meck family, regardless of your race, your age, your gender, your personal beliefs, your personal feelings about this. It's incumbent upon all of us to get involved. And I like that. Have the conversation. But don't just have a feel-good conversation. By the time you finish that conversation, somebody should be crying, somebody should be hurt, somebody should be enlightened, somebody should be moved to want to take an action, to make a difference. If you just have the soft conversations that make you feel good, and I appreciate the Meck family because I've had them reaching out. How are you doing? I've gotten the phone calls, the emails, the text messages, the Zoom calls, and that's great. But in those calls, unless we are going to, and I'm not just saying that our white brothers and sisters need to say, come to us and talk. We need to do it too. I need to step to you and say, hey, we need to talk about this on a deeper level. So nobody gets a free pass on this. Everybody has a responsibility to do something. And it starts with those of us, in my belief, it starts with us at Meck because we do love God and we do love our neighbors. So if we really do, let's put some action behind that. Just to say, I love you and do nothing is meaningless.
If we can't have the conversation in the church, where can we have the conversation?
Right.
I mean, this is supposed to be the safest place that we can have these conversations. And I commend this church and you, Pastor, for that, is because you don't shy away from these crucial conversations that we need to have. When there's something that's going on in our country or in the media, you address it. So as a member of the church, I want to say thank you for that and not shying away from that, because I know a lot of people and a lot of churches do. Secondly, when it comes to the different things that's going on, far as right now with it being George Floyd, it's one of those things where we need to stay focused, like we said earlier, on the narrative itself. Right now, it's in social justice on Black people. But now you look at the media, you see it, oh, they're looting, they're doing this, they're doing that. Let's stay focused on the narrative. Before all this, it was Colin Kaepernick kneeling, for this reason right here that we're talking about now. Oh, he's disrespecting the flag, he's disrespecting the army. No, that's not the point that we're trying to make. So if we can stay focused on the narrative of what we're trying to get across, I think it'll go a long way. And then lastly, it goes to the point of having those conversations. We have to have them. I just had a conversation with a member of the church yesterday where they reached out to me, which I appreciate, and said, hey, what can I do? What are some things that we can do? Can you email me? Can you text me on what I should be doing? And I had to think about it for a minute, and I told him, I said, you know what? We can't do this through text or email. Let's sit down. Let's have this conversation. And we sat down yesterday for about an hour and a half, and had that crucial conversation, because that's the only way that we're going to move forward.
We all see the facts. We saw the video, for instance. We've heard different things. But the narrative that goes on are also, people, you hear, America is racist. White people are racist. That is not true. You're a white person. I'm sorry to point you out, but you're a white person, and we're all sitting here. I mean, half of my friends are white. I didn't grow up here, so I didn't get to grow up with Black friends only or anything like that. My friends are people that I just meet, school, church, wherever I go. And I wasn't selective, so I have a lot, and America has more white people than Black people. So a whole lot of my friends are white, and most of them are very good people. A lot of people have reached out to us as family, both from the church, are you guys okay? And things, and I get a sense that some of them are actually feeling guilty, and that's when I want to speak to that white people are not racist. There are racist people, but white people are not racist. America is not a racist country, as you would say. And we have to, if we're going to solve this problem, it has to be together. As a body of Christ, what unites us is stronger than the differences. And in fact, if church was meant for that purpose, right? For politics, if you like. Because in church, when Christ called the church, formed the church, he did not say only people of a certain color, or only people of a certain social status, or only people of certain interest groups. When you come to church, whether you're rich, poor, whether you're Black, white, whether you're educated, uneducated, whatever, before God, we are the same. We're one. And until we're able to see that, until we're able to embrace that, both white and Black people, because as a Black person, if I'm thinking, we say it, but we don't think very deeply about it. In our hearts, we know, for instance, I know my pastor is not racist. I know that my white friends are not racist. But when I say white people are racist, or when I listen to the narrative on the news, or that drives that, it only foments more trouble. Instead of me seeing you as a partner in solving this problem, I'm looking more only to go to Alex. Maybe you could solve this problem better or help better than Alex could because you have more reach. What about that? So we all have to change our thinking.
There's no better place to do that in the church, because I think the real issue is not just racism, it's a sin issue that manifests itself as racism. And if we can just look at that for what it is and say, we are equally devastated about Black on Black crime and all these other things because it's sin and it grieves the heart of God. And that's what we need to come together to discuss. They can sometimes be mutually exclusive, but honestly, in the Black community, they're not. They're all related. And we have to have the conversation about peeling back the layers of the onion of racism and prejudice and everything else as sin. And what better place to have that heart transformation than in the church. And I too get a little upset when people are like, oh, but you're bringing in politics. It's like, so what? What if we have to do that? That's a great thing, because politics is about people and people are about the heart. And what would we want our leaders to address more than the heart? So that's why we're here.
Those that have been involved in ministry that includes initiatives of justice and reconciliation, there's been a pretty consistent response, and it's been four things. A call for justice, a call for love, a call for reconciliation, and a call for changes through public policy. That's been kind of the forefront push. First, would you agree that when there is a call for change, and everybody's saying change, 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 and that we're saying, hey, it's a call for justice, it's a call for love, it's a call for reconciliation, and it's a call for changes through public policy that either foster institutional racism or injustice. I mean, so we're talking about those four things. Would you agree that those are the four, or would you tweak it? And second, kind of tangential, there's a segment of the body of Christ that unfortunately has consistently remained silent, both white and black. What would you say to your family who might be silent? What would you say to them? So it's a four-pronged approach, kind of what we're after, and those that are being silent about those four things, maybe that's why that's the corollary. What do you want to say to them? What do we need to hear?
That's a lot to unpack.
It really is. It really is.
About 3 hours?
Well, maybe give me the potent punchlines.
Let me start with one, the word reconciliation. That means that you've been friends with someone already and you're trying to reconcile something. If I don't know you and you don't know me, how do you reconcile with me? So I struggle with that one. Love and empathy and justice, that's all good. But again, I think we all, let's be very clear too. I'm not speaking for the black community. I'm not speaking for everyone here. I'm speaking for me as a black man. All those things are good, but it's lip service. Do something. Be something. If you feel what I feel and see what we are all going through as a family, then do something, because you may have the power that I don't have. Because right now, as I mentioned before, I'm numb, so I can't move right now. I can't do nothing because I don't know what to do or how to do. But you may have the power to do it, because in some cases, there's fear that sits in too. There's a fear, if I go do something, am I going to get in trouble? Or something going to happen else? And I have friends right now in this community, in the suburban area, right now, that are judges and lawyers and doctors and engineers, okay, that don't want to do anything, that have the same color as me right now, because there's a fear. There's a fear that's still going on. So you're asking a great question, but the reality is, we as human beings, we all have responsibility to do something, not because of the color of our skin. We have to do something. So going back to all those things, we are politics here. Church is supposed to be the leader of everything, all these issues. That's what church is about, because church is not just the brick and mortar. It's about the people that are here, regardless of where we are. And Meck here has a diverse population. That's perfect. That's why I'm here, okay? But again, answer that question. It takes us as the church to lead this the right way, not follow and then become we need to be proactive, then reactive, right?
It's not enough to talk about it. You have to do something. But those four categories you talked about, one of them, I think, very importantly, because we as a church, we have to look at this as a church, and then we look at this as a country, or as a country of peoples. As a country, we need justice. And I'm not talking about social justice in the sense like, this is, everybody has to have the same outcome and things like that. That doesn't happen in reality. I'm talking about if you do something wrong, you suffer the consequence the same way that I would suffer the consequence, the same way the next person would suffer the consequence. And it is clear. The only way a racist's act would go unpunished is if it's not found, if it's not known. But if it comes to light, if it ever happens, and anybody knows somewhere, you will suffer the consequence. Because like I said earlier, there are racist people, period, wherever you go. There are people who have just evil in their heart. It might not be racism. We're human beings. That's how we are. The human nature has all kinds of vices in it. And if there's a consequence, since we're talking specifically about racism, there's clear consequence. If you do this, you kill somebody, you go to jail. Why are you not in jail right away? Why are you not being brought to justice right away? Why are we waiting 2 months before we find out about this? But as soon as it is known, it is happening. And so justice, I think that is super important. Then we talk about changing policy. It is kind of the same with justice if it goes hand in hand with justice, but I think more importantly, the other two, now when you talk about reconciliation and you talk about love, and I'm gonna end with love trumps it all, because that is what brings us all together in the first place, is the love of Christ. But you can change policy, but if you don't change people's hearts, it's a waste of time. The law is for good people. It helps you, keep yourself out of doing bad stuff. If you're evil, have an evil intent yourself, doesn't matter what the law says, you'll find a way to skirt around it and do it. So the most important of all those four is love. And as the body of Christ, we have to lead that.
There needs to be some type of laws change, policies change. Something needs to happen. But how do we do that? What's the first step? Who do we talk to? And most of the politicians, like I said, are being silent. They may have some agenda, they may not. We don't know. Are they trying to get reelected again? If they get involved, would that jeopardize them being reelected? We don't know that. Another part to that is maybe getting more people of color in positions to make change. And that starts by, like say, bringing politics in again, but you don't make change without having people in that position in order to make that change and bringing those people to the table. And if we can't get people of color in those positions, we need our white counterparts and our white friends to come beside us and say, I'm with you, we know that's wrong, let's make some change. But that's difficult to do because, as we know, as a leader, you have to make strong decisions that may oppose a lot of your friends and counterparts, and nobody is willing to rock that boat. And so it's going to take somebody that's with a strong backbone that's willing to say, you know what, I'm stepping out on faith. I'm going to make the change, even though I may lose some of my friends and colleagues behind all this.
It's important to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. So that means not staying silent if you normally stay silent. That's not doing anything to help anything. It's not making you feel better probably on the inside at all. So to reach out and say, this is wrong, that's standing up. I got a lot of messages since it happened saying, oh, I love you, and our friendship means so much to me. And that was it. And I love those people. I love my friends. I need you to stick up for what's going on. It's not okay. So to sit there and be silent, it's telling me that while you tell me you care about our friendship, you don't care if the next person is my father. You don't care if I'm being singled out because I'm a person of color. You're going to ignore that part, but you love me as a person and you're my friend, and that's cool. No, I want all of my friends, I want everybody to speak out. It's uncomfortable, but that's the only way we're going to make a change, is if everyone steps out of their comfort zone and fights for what's right. It's just, the silence makes me think that while you say you care about me, it makes you think you don't really care about me. You can only care about me to the points you relate to me with. You're my friend. We both go to the same church. That's great. But when we step outside of the church, what does that say? I want change. I need change. I can't keep living like this in fear and silence. Just I don't silence is just, I'm not about it. And then Another thing that I was taught is I have to be the change I want to see. So that means getting out to the polls. People died for my right to vote, and I need to invoke that and go to the polls. I go to the polls every time I can since I turned 18. It's just important. We all go as a family, we pray before, and then we go and vote and come back. You can't make a change if you're silent. It's not gonna work.
I want to read something, and I'd like for you to just give me your response to it. What unites us as a church now? What would this unity look like today for the family of George Floyd? What would it mean for us to be together with them? What would it mean to be alongside the Black community in the United States, which over the years has experienced kidnapping, slavery, the injustice of the Jim Crow era, the litany of contemporary sufferings that mark our lives now? And this person says, it would mean that as an act of love, the church says it should not have to be this way. And I will spend my life beside yours, testifying to the values that the Christian tradition places on your Black life. Is that what you would hope your family of faith would be to you and for you now? Is there more that you would add, or would you simply give that an affirmation? I mean, if we were wanting to know how we can be for you, stand with you, fight for you, pray for you, what can we be doing? We're family. Help us be that family. So would you, is that the affirmation we need? Is there more to add to that?
I think it's a necessary start. However, to care, but not care enough, to use your platform, whatever that is, you have the gift to teach. You have a wide and broad platform because of who you are, your profession that you were called into. And so while you're doing what you do, which enables this type of dialogue, which can help open the eyes of Meckers and all of the others that watch our online campus to maybe begin to wrestle with this. Those of us who don't have that big of a platform don't get a pass. We still have a responsibility. Each person has a responsibility. And so to walk alongside me in inaction is useless. Those are empty words. Those are empty gestures, but not because people are intentionally necessarily trying to not really do. They don't know what to do. We don't really know all of what to do, but collectively we can pick pieces out. So if your platform is a cubicle, okay, in this day and age right now, a Zoom call, then maybe you're having conversation one-on-one, two-on-one, three-on-one, whatever. You are beginning to bring these issues to the table, have the discussions, and collectively decide, now how do we infect the rest of this world with this love we want to push out to overshadow the evil one? Policing is a noble profession. I'm not ashamed that I was in it. I'm not ashamed that I work there now. But because of people with evil intentions, evil hearts, were raised in wrong ways about how to devalue human life, because of people like that, this profession is one that I'm terrified for the ones that I love and still mentor and know their moms and everything that are in the uniform out there on the front lines now. On the other side of that, I struggle with how to reconcile that this community can continue to have the greatest of conversations and the greatest of intentions, but the attention span of an ant. I'm sorry, an ant probably has a better attention span, because in a week or 2 weeks, it's gone. We have forgotten. But those of us who live this every day can't forget. We still feel it every single day. And those who love us and care enough are suffering and still feel this too, that same pain. So whatever that platform that you have the power to control, use it for something.
We all have cell phones today. And that's part of the reason why all of these things is out there, and we know more about it. Like we said before, it's always happened. And our first instinct, most people, take your cell phone, start recording, and then put it on YouTube or Facebook, and start to say, can you believe that is helpful in bringing this out, but can you do something right now to prevent it becoming a tragedy? If I was Floyd at that time, with all the people surrounding, watching, all that time, what would I be wishing somebody, is there anybody that cares enough to do something? Now, in this case, it's more tricky because it's police officers. But even if it wasn't police officers, I'm sure people will still just videotape and things and post. Can you call 911? Can you, even if it's a police officer, can you call and say, this is going to result in a tragedy? Can you do that? Can you go up to the officer and say, excuse me, this is not okay. This is going to result in something else. He's already restrained. Can we do something?
You ask a great question about what can we do. Get uncomfortable. Start here. Start in the Concord, at Kannapolis. Start on the outside of 45. Start in this nice, beautiful area we are in. Because you know why? We have nice green trees and we got nice green yards here. But we don't want to get uncomfortable because, we don't want to disturb what's going on. But let's go tear up something. Let's go do something in the inner city. It's not an inner city issue. I came from the inner city. We wanted to be out in the suburbs. We wanted to have a better life. I'm uncomfortable where I'm at today because this continues to go on and on and on. You mentioned from your viewpoint that you've seen some things happen. I can go back a long list. I could tell you one for me. I was one of those people who got my knee in my back for no reason. I seen my cousins die in front of me, okay? I'm uncomfortable of where we are today. I'm uncomfortable from the standpoint that black, white, yellow, blue, whatever you want to be, you have to do something. Put a sign up in your yard. We put a flag up. You're in the military, and my parents are in the military, or we're in the military. We put flags up. We support that. Support something else. Support what's right. Support what's justice. Support what's human beings, okay? Because if we start getting with our neighbors and they start feeling us and they start getting uncomfortable, things start happening. We talk about protests. We talk protests in the city. Protest out here. Protest out here, see what happens. People start getting uncomfortable then, okay? And then you also ask the question, what else? What I like, and this is just me, you see a rainbow of people protesting in various ages and whatever it may be, and you can't always, everybody can't do it for whatever reason, but be pushing it. What I see, what I would love to see, is my brothers and sisters, all races, be the front line of something. If they're protesting out here in the outskirts of 45, and then you have, I'll call it the black people behind them, man, do you think something's gonna change then? Absolutely.
As the church, I will say for the church just to continue to have these conversations. Don't shy away from what most people will do, which is kind of push it to the side, and hopefully we don't have to talk about it. Because at the end of the day, it starts with the church, like we said earlier, having these conversations. And then from that point, it's a trickle effect. It goes from the church, and then the members of the church, hopefully they get conflicted, and they say, you know what, I haven't been having those conversations. I know it's a difficult conversation to have, but you know what, I need to have that. Let me reach out to my friends. Let me reach out to my coworkers and not just say, how are you feeling? Let me actually really have a genuine conversation to see how are you really doing? Let me show you that I really care. Let me show you that I am with you. It's not just a, how are you? You know what? I feel for you. Let me know what I can do alongside you. Like I say, it may not be protesting, but it may be making a post, with social media. It may be making a post. It may be putting a sign in our yard. It may be something. It may just be being conflicted enough to say something to another friend that they have a friend with a conversation with their friend, because we're all grown up in our bubble. We're all taught what our parents has taught us, and that's what we know to become true. And unfortunately, some of us has grown up for things that we think is true, but are not really true. And it's not until we have a conversation with somebody and we force their hand or challenge their judgment to say, have you ever thought of something like this? Have you ever thought maybe to think of it this way? And are we going to get across to everybody? No, we're not going to get across to everybody, but it only takes a few people to have conversations with a couple of people, to have a conversation with a couple of people where we can get the momentum going to say, all right, now we're starting to get to the right people that can affect some change to where we can start doing something.
Well, that's probably a good note to end on. This has been a wonderful conversation, and it's been very helpful to me personally and enlightening, and I think it will be to many, many, many others. And I want to thank all of you. Keely, I want to thank you, Nina, Antoine, Alex, Dee Dee, David. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for sharing openly and honestly. Thank you for giving me the privilege of being your pastor, because it's my privilege. It's my honor. And thank you for helping out your wider church family, white and black, brown, young and old, male and female, as we walk through this together. So thank you so much. Let me close this in just a quick word of prayer. Can I do that? Father, thank you so much for the beauty of the bride of Christ, the beauty of the church, and how there is neither male nor female, slave nor free, Jew nor Greek. We are all one in Christ, as the scriptures say. And so I pray that we would model that to the world, and from that modeling, the world would indeed be changed. Thank you for the conversation. I pray that it would remain in our hearts and minds, and that this is not the ending, just another step forward. I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.